What's your thoughts on the new Atlas robot? Wait. No. This has to be AI. Okay, never mind. I think that's AI. That's not real. It could have been. Almost is. Like, dude, this is where we're at in the world. Right? That can't be real. No, that can't be real yet. Coming soon. 6 more months. Alan's conservative countdown to AGI is at still 97%, but he had a fascinating new update to talk about. Drilling in on what it really means when Google says they have 1.3 quadrillion monthly tokens processed across all of their surfaces. And I'll follow that up with some equally fascinating data about how quickly ChatGPT became a monster hit, including what kind of conversations they're having with it as a whole. I'll share Will Lockett's opinion about how the SpaceX and XAI merger is a giant red flag. Touch on Katie Forrester's article, AI Arms Race Risks Human Extinction, warns top computing expert. We'll look at what automated mechanism design could mean for mechanical engineering. Like when AI gets involved, it really does shake that industry up big time. We'll talk about a new souped up CRISPR gene editor, can replicate and spread like a virus inside your body. I think technically it's a good thing, but you can kind of imagine how it might get out of control also. But hey, if you're editing genes, who doesn't want, quote, increased editing efficiency? Listen, I can't just sit around all day while you're editing my DNA, you know? I got stuff to do. Get to it. We'll look at how ultra-fast nanolasers can mimic how the brain imagines unseen parts of the world. This one will blow your mind. And it does have something to do with this rabbit. AI also created an artificial animal this week that over time developed vision without any instructions. That's right, the most surprising aspect was that the company's eyes developed in the same way as those of real organisms did throughout history. Wild stuff. We're gonna ask the question about whether or not AI models can read social media language to flag mental health risks, and they can do it accurately and safely and in a way that actually helps the world. We'll dive into how arguably the world's top AI research facility is cracking down on its own employees leaking information by using its own state-of-the-art AI to monitor its own engineers. And look at how much better it did than average. I'm already at 13,000 views on it. That's way above what I normally expect. Look at that, 62% more views than usual, $65, cold hard cash. Loving it. Look, even some 65-plus-year-olds diving in here, keeping up with the AI news. Look at you guys. So young in spirit. All right, so I guess I'll still play this for you, but it is clear that it's not real. Although I will say, when I listed it as a topic to show you, I thought I was just like going through my social media feed and I was like, oh, I'm sure that's an Atlas update. But yeah, I can kind of see it kind of like being wonky over here now. And in a way that's not real, but you know, that could easily be Atlas. Just give that another 6 months, 1 year. Just need the soft robotic joints to catch up, but I'm sure the simulation models could do something that fluid. Next up, I came over to check out Alan's conservative countdown to AGI just because like we only have 3% left. And if I miss it, you know, like I want to be on it the second it happens. I need some kind of an update or something. Some kind of push notification. But even though I don't have that, I check it enough. And I did see that there was an interesting update that he put for his argument at 97%. Thought I would break that down. And in a nutshell, he just is pointing out how fast AI text output has grown, and it is staggering. In 2021, like, that doesn't seem like that long ago. I mean, I'm getting older now, but it's like, that's just not that long in my lifetime. GPT-3 was generating about 4.5 billion words a day. And even though that sounds like a big number, it was just the start. By 2024, GPT-4o was processing more than 200 billion tokens a day. Late 2025, it was estimated that frontier AI systems were generating about 10 trillion tokens per day. So to make this concrete, the New York Public Library, it is the largest library in the world, I think, or extremely close to it. 12 million books are there. That equals about 1.6 trillion tokens if you were to take the words and kind of break them up like tokens inside that library. So AI output moves from the equivalent of one New York Public Library per year to multiple libraries per day. The total human writing across 8 billion people is estimated to be about 213 trillion tokens per day. And what do you see right here? Google is at 1.3 quadrillion tokens processed. I mean, it could be similar for ChatGPT, right? And Anthropic, maybe a quarter of that or a fifth of that, maybe. So there's probably, I'm going to just totally guess here, but like maybe 2.3 quadrillion tokens monthly. It's just And this is the beginning. Like, it's going to get so much more intense soon. All right, so as long as we're on the topic, let me show you a couple more stats just to get your head around where we're at February 19th of 2026. Fabio Duarte put this together on explodingtopics.com. Interesting things here. 42% of ChatGPT users are under 25, 18% American. 47% of social media traffic comes via YouTube. I wouldn't have thought that one. People like me driving people to ChatGPT? I guess so. I mean, we do talk about it a lot. 2.5 billion prompts every day. Got some of our first ad data. So $60 per 1,000 impressions. Man, and if it's 2.5 billion prompts every day, and I guess the vast majority of people don't pay for it. So at least like a couple billion maybe of them could have impressions. That's wild. I wonder how much money, I guess we could calculate that out. Yeah, I guess ad revenue is going to be pretty significant. If there's enough advertisers to fill all those prompts, I'm out though. I'm moving over to Anthropic's models, by the way. I'm not into the ads. A slow move over, but over the next couple months. Well, and Gemini. I like Gemini a lot too, actually. 64% are male, 35% are female. Personal tasks, people are mostly using ChatGPT, 83%. Oh, but these percentages don't total up to 100. But there's also AI mode in Google search. Yeah, that comes up a lot just because we're Google searching, Then going directly to Gemini, then using Meta AI, then Copilot in Windows or Microsoft, DeepSeek, Claude, Grok, Claude Code, GitHub Copilot. Down the stack we go. Yeah, you can see most people are using it for writing and then practical guidance. Seeking information, I feel like it's a little bit higher for me, but I do use it for writing. Maybe I'm not that practical. This one's definitely smaller for me. Yeah, 10% technical help. That seems about right. Multimedia, like for entertainment? Maybe. Put that in perspective, ChatGPT reached 1 million users faster than almost anything. Threads actually beat it out, but that was the only one. Oh my God, it only took 1 hour for Threads in 2023 to get to 1 million users. That's crazy. That thing was really hot for a minute. I mean, I still have one, I think, but I'm not that active. But to be fair, I'm really not on X as much as I know I should be too, because I always see Wes and all the other AI guys on there. All right, let's jump over to Will Lockett's opinion about how SpaceX and the XAI merger is a red flag. All right, so his argument is that the real reason for the SpaceX and XAI merger might not be about money, it might be about gravity. Now, kind of the surface level argument is, well, we should put data centers in space, and SpaceX is great at doing that, and XAI needs a lot of servers. There is some truth to that crossover, but I feel like that's not the whole story. So XAI has pretty huge long-term potential if you believe in ASI the way I do, but it is losing billions and billions of dollars right now. They have the biggest data center build out on the planet, I would say. SpaceX might be looking at $1 trillion+ IPO. So the simple story is SpaceX is funding XAI, but this article argues that that's not the real play. He's arguing that orbital data centers don't make financial sense, but they make legal sense. Right? Musk is claiming the space-based data centers will be cheaper, free solar power, no land cost, no construction delays, no bureaucracy in space. I hadn't thought about that one really. But the numbers are tricky. Launching enough solar panels for 100 gigawatts, replacing them every 5 years would probably cost trillions more. So even analysts are estimating up to $5 trillion a year to keep all this stuff in space. I mean, costs will drive down and technology, is like a puck that you're skating towards, but industry leaders are saying the idea is a bit far from reality right now, so why is he pushing it? Because regulators can raid offices, they can find companies, and they can pass laws. But they can't really raid a server in orbit. The article suggests by merging XAI, X and SpaceX, and moving AI infrastructure into space, Musk could be shielding his AI systems from national regulation. Just hadn't thought about that argument. Not totally sure I buy the whole thing, but it's fascinating. It's not vertical integration, it's jurisdictional escape, like from the whole planet. Imagine the bureaucracy so bad on Earth it makes sense to go to the moon, space, and Mars just to get away from it. Next up, let's look at Kate Forrester's thoughts on the AI arms race, how it risks human extinction. And she points out something that I think about a lot, or you probably do too if you're watching this channel, but just in case it's not clicking all the time. She argues the scariest part about the AI arms race isn't the machines or the power or even that they're being used in military form. It's the people building them say that they can't stop, right? It's the race condition. Like the tragedy of the commons is like what's going to get us at the end of the day, which is sad because it's like always the problem in human history. When you act from a sort of selfish point of view, knowing, that the opponent is also going from a selfish point of view. Like you can't come to an agreement that's the better outcome for everyone. So the CEOs that are actually building super intelligent AI, they might want to slow down. Like it wouldn't surprise me if Dario Amodei and Demis Hassabis and Sam Altman and Elon Musk are sitting there sometimes saying like, man, wish I had more time to think about the safety and the guardrails, but like I can't, right? If I don't, someone else will. So computer scientist Stuart Russell warns that governments are letting private companies play Russian roulette with humanity. He believes that some AI leaders understand the risk that the systems could one day overpower humans. And the danger isn't just job loss or online abuse. These are AI systems that might take control, with human civilization becoming the collateral damage. And yet, according to Russell, even if a CEO wants to disarm, they can't do it alone. Investors would replace them, so they're trapped. Public summits have produced some voluntary promises. They don't seem like they're enough at this point. Meanwhile, countries are pouring hundreds of billions of dollars into energy-hungry data centers. In India alone, officials expect more than $200 billion in AI investment within the next couple of years. At the same time, AI tools are already threatening customer service and tech support jobs, and Russell claims that these systems are human imitators. If you build a machine that copies human thinking, the obvious use is to replace humans. So the real risk isn't rogue machines acting alone, it's global competition where no one feels able to hit the brakes. And it sort of just personally bums me out because I know on the other side of all this technology is everything we could dream of. I really do think the ASI 20 years from now, if we just work together, took it really carefully, played it really safe, really focused on the benefits and minimizing the downsides of having something this powerful, could be the end of starvation and potentially even dying. I feel like longevity might get pretty much solved. I could see everything humans wanted for all 8, 10, 20 billion people that we want to have on this earth, and it could be great, right? We just have to sort of not do what's in the short interest in a competitive environment that might get us in trouble and just do what's right in the long run. So hopefully we could stay focused on that somehow. Have no idea how to do that. Don't see it happening right now. And yeah, that's that for where we're at on this story. So let's switch gears and talk about mechanical engineering, some interesting AI things happening over in that space. So can AI build a machine that can draw a heart? What's this all about, you say? So what you're looking at here is a new AI that's learning to design mechanical mechanisms. When prompted with the shape of a heart, it designs the mechanism that you're looking at here. And then when a physical copy of the design was built, the mechanism traced out the heart shape on the right. So it's like learning by apprenticeship, but for AI and the real world. A pretty fascinating thought. What if designing a machine was less about the math and more about watching videos like it is for people, right? And of course, a lot of people think AI works by crunching equations, but it doesn't. AI is different. It learns, it adapts, and it uses heuristics. It learns realistically closer to the way an apprentice learns than a system that's programmed to do something amazing. So researchers at Columbia created over 1 million random mechanisms. They simulated each one, and then they threw away the bad ones. What remained was about 400,000 smooth working machines. Then they trained AI to just watch hours and hours of those machines moving. No blueprints, no formulas, just motion. And from that, what it learned was how linkages and joints can create shapes. Then they gave it a simple prompt. Can you make something that has the shape of a heart? Of course, like all AI, it's not smart right out the gate. At first it failed. Some designs couldn't even be built, but it got feedback every time it made a mistake. And it tested those ideas in simulation. And then when it came to reality, it saw what broke. And after just a couple days, it was ready to create the shape of a heart. The strangest part was when the AI didn't know what to do, it gave a blurry design, which is really bad because we're talking about mechanical engineering here. You can't just have a blurry object be printed because real objects aren't blurry. And the researchers couldn't fully understand why for a while, but they likened it to the AI developing something of a gut feeling. For people who are actually engineering, it kind of brings up that thought, do like Leonardo da Vinci or some, mechanic? Do you have a gut feeling on what you should build and then you sort of start crafting it and honing it in the same way? Or do you actually fully visualize exactly what the mechanism looks like before you build it? I would say for humans, maybe they have a gut feeling too, and then it just sort of happens. But right now, it's at a point where it can still design only flat 2D mechanisms with simple rotating joints, but the bigger shift isn't the complexity, it is how many times they are going to iterate on this. And I got a feeling we're looking at something that in the near future could be something that mechanical engineers might want to take seriously when thinking about what to build in the real world. All right, now let's stay in the real world where AI can be applied to CRISPR, but get much smaller. Let's talk about genes, DNA. CRISPR, the Cas9 complex, Jennifer Doudna, some of the most interesting stuff in the entire world. It's amazing that we're learning how to cut our own DNA and change it, but let's soup that up a little bit because there are some updates. Self-spreading CRISPR. It is a new tool, and it increased editing efficiency roughly 3-fold compared to older versions. So what if gene editors didn't just fix a few cells, but instead they turned those cells into factories that spread the fixes on their own? So gene editing has a hidden problem. It's a numbers game. To treat a disease, you don't need to edit every cell, but you do need to do enough. Words like billions and trillions do need to come into place, and current CRISPR tools only work in the cell that they first enter. This means doctors often have to raise the dose, which can then trigger an immune reaction to the unwanted edits. And a team led by none other than the Nobel Prize winner Jennifer Doudna. You should read the book. Walter Isaacson wrote on her before he did the whole Elon Musk thing and after the Steve Jobs thing. It was when I think about all the audiobooks I've listened to, I have a lot of nonfiction audiobooks in my Audible account, maybe even 1,000, definitely maybe 800, 700, something like that. There's a couple of times where I just remember sitting, just thinking and learning, and Ray Kurzweil's book from 10 years ago did that, and the Jennifer Doudna book did that. Anyways, back to topic. But what her team did, instead, they sort of flipped that logic. Instead of pushing harder on the CRISPR genes, they made it so that CRISPR can spread. They built a new system. It is called Nanite, and it packs the CRISPR machinery into a virus-like shell. So when a treated cell makes this package, it buds off and then drifts into nearby cells, the same way a virus would spread throughout your body. Those new cells then start making and shipping the editor to the cells next to them, and then you're off to the races, right? Like a kind of semi-controlled ripple effect. Okay, so what stops this thing from going crazy? Because it is somewhat controlled. It doesn't happen randomly or forever, but it's somewhat controlled because it only can spread locally from neighboring cell to neighboring cell. So it can't metastasize, might be the wrong word, but kind of break off and go to other parts of the body. It's not a self-sustaining infection like a real virus, and it wouldn't keep mutating to spread endlessly, supposedly. And it depends on the original delivery into a tissue. So instead of blasting a whole organ with a huge dose, you can just start small, and the first edited cells act like a little hub for it to grow from. All right, next up, I know what you've all been waiting for, nanolasers. And how the brain imagines unseen parts of the world. What's the connection? Network spiking. That emulates key principles of how the brain functions to imagine things that we can't directly perceive by sampling from internal models of the world. All right, maybe there's some clues here on how my imagination works. That sounds fascinating. All right, so flashing lasers can now imagine what they can see just like your brain does. For example, if you see a swimmer, you can only see the head and the shoulder, right? Maybe swimming above water in the Olympics or something like that. But your brain can fill in the hidden body underwater. You know how the human body works. You know why they're moving the way they are. But it all just happens automatically, right? Somebody swimming, you know the whole body is under the water. But your brain doesn't hold every option in at once. It samples one possible body position at a time, and that process is called Bayesian inference. It means guessing at what's hidden based on what you see and what you've already known. So here's where it gets wild. Researchers decided, why don't we build nanolasers that do the same thing? These tiny semiconductor lasers can spike, quote, spike, like neurons firing in the brain, but instead of electric pulses, they flash light. And those flashes led the network of nanolasers to learn probabilistic world models, and then they sample from it one possibility at a time. All right, so you might have seen this famous duck bunny illusion if you look look at it in a certain way, you see a rabbit looking to the right. If you look at it a different way, you see a duck looking to the left. And at the microscopic level, this sampling behavior is closely linked to how neurons communicate. Neurons in the neocortex don't have continuous output. Instead, they fire action potential short electric flashes that propagate to their neighbors because the visual cortex is topographically organized. Groups of spiking neurons can literally trace out image shapes, such as the contour of the swimmer's legs underwater, one posture at a time, or a rabbit or a duck. So those flashes of light basically build a network of nanolasers that can learn probabilistic world models. Then they sample from it one possibility at a time. And in tests, the system saw only part of handwritten digits. And then it completed the missing pixels without realistic numbers. And when given no input, it essentially, quote, dreamed digits freely. It just guessed, right? Just like us, like our brain, the same way our brains might work. But the brains, our brain, as fast as it is, has an electrical signal. It has action potentials. It has little gaps between the neurons. We've got ions going in and out of cells. All happens pretty darn fast, but not laser light fast. These laser spikes, they run in picoseconds. I mean, hundreds of millions of times faster than my brain imagines. Like, how many months or years would it take me to have 100 million imagined thoughts? And that's all happening in one moment? I don't know. That's why some of this stuff feels more like aliens showing up than it is like AI just evolving in the way like a human would. All right, let's talk about AI and evolution. So AI has created an artificial animal that over time developed a functioning vision system without any instructions on its own. It just emerged. And like the article says, the most surprising aspect was the computer's eye developed in the same way as a real organism might. So yeah, it turns out evolution might be more predictable than we thought, even when it's inside of a computer. So researchers in Sweden built a fake world inside of a computer. Then they dropped in a simple virtual animal that couldn't see. So no instructions, no design for eyes, just survival tasks. It could move around, it could avoid obstacles, it could find food. And then generation after generation, small changes started to appear in this animal. Now there's lots of different versions of the animal, kind of going through different evolutionary histories. Some learned to turn towards the light. And over time, simple light-sensitive spots slowly started to become real, and a functional eye emerged. It's pretty wild. The eyes didn't just seem to evolve in random new ways. They evolved in the same three ways over and over again, and they're similar to the way that we see it in nature today. There were dispersed light sensor type reactors, there were camera type eyes, and there were compound eyes. Very similar to what we see in the biological world. Even though the digital world was simple, evolution followed its usual paths. What do you think about that? I would love to hear if you have a comment on, I don't know, isn't it sort of weird that it evolved so close to the way the real world is right now when it didn't have to? Makes me just think all of this is happening following, kind of rules of the universe or patterns that we're going to see over and over again. But yeah, step by step, those light sensors connected to basic brains, quote brains, they say, that could process what they saw. So then the eye starts kind of connecting to a brain, just like we have eyes that are connected to a brain. And no one told the system build an eye. It discovered them. That suggests evolution isn't just chaotic, but it may be guided by deep constraints, pushing life towards certain solutions again and again and again. But I didn't know if that would be true in a stripped down computer world. So it's interesting that it happened there too. So it might be true for life everywhere. If there's aliens out there in the universe, maybe they have eyes and they have learned to connect them to brains. Digital or biological, doesn't seem to matter. All right, let's talk about some AI models that are here to read social media language and flag mental health risks. David Bradley writes this in Tech Explorer. So the interesting thing about what's happening with AI and its understanding of human mental health is that AI doesn't really need to ask us how we feel to assess our mental health. It can just watch us, right? Especially it can go to social media and read how you write. That means memory gaps, stigma, and limited access to doctors that have all gotten in the way of diagnosing people is gone now, and researchers are building systems that skip all of those questionnaires. They study your everyday writing online. The model looks at social media posts and forum comments, It analyzes sentiment, which just means emotional tone, and it tracks word choice and even super small behavioral cues inside of the text that you write. And the emotional signals aren't just in the words either. It's how the words are connected to each other and how you connect those words to other users. The mental health analysis is using something called FOSSA optimization. That's a method that filters out irrelevant language and keeps only features linked to distress, like certain phrases or emotional markers. Then it uses a graph neural network and maps those features as nodes into a network and studies how everything is interacted. So instead of spotting just a sad word or detecting a simple pattern, like repeated combinations of emotion and behavior, when it's trained on categories like depression, anxiety, stress, bipolar disorder, suicidal thoughts, and personality disorders, and they're mapped into a graph, and the graph is analyzed, it can reach nearly 99% accuracy in trait prediction. And that level of precision could help screen large groups and flag the few who need follow-up. Not by asking how people feel, but AI quietly understanding how you write on social media. Obviously, this is a great tool when it's used to help people who have mental health issues. But also, you could imagine how this is used for all sorts of predictions about the patterns that you leave online. And it would kind of be silly to think nobody's going to use it for advertising and for other things. So just be aware that this kind of technology exists for better and worse. All right, so interesting use case over at OpenAI. They are building tools, obviously, for customers, but they're also using their own AI to look at their own employees and hunt down leakers. So if you're working at OpenAI right now and you've been like leaking information, like the way the Apple leaks always come out and sometimes people just can never figure out who it is, well, now you're working at an AI company and they have the tools to look at what you're doing and maybe track you down. So most people think that ChatGPT is just a tool that you type into. But inside of OpenAI, there's a private version of the model doing something very different. When a news story comes out with secret company details, security teams inside of OpenAI are running through an internal version of ChatGPT meant to track down the leaker. This version of ChatGPT has access to company documents, Slack messages, and employee emails. It scans the article, then it searches those internal files for matching language or ideas. When it finds the original document or message, it shows which employees had access to it. And it's an AI that doesn't just find the leaked information, it maps who could have seen it and narrows the list of possible leakers. Now, as of this post by the informant, it's unclear if anyone's actually been caught this way, but OpenAI has fired researchers in the past for allegedly leaking information. The tech company already fears competitors stealing intellectual property, and with rising concerns about Chinese rivals gaining access to sensitive AI work, the pressure is even higher to ratchet up tools like this and track the employees even tighter. And of course, OpenAI can fear leaks, but that is the same AI built to understand language that we all use, and it can trace language back to its source in ways that are just sort of non-obvious and maybe even a little dystopian. So tricky, because I can understand how a company has a fiduciary duty to not leak information, and I can understand why it's important. But what if that's somebody who's trying to, sound the alarm on something, like a whistleblower situation that really does need to get out there? How do we know they're using it for the right reasons? Is there somebody monitoring how the security team is using it and when, and doing it in good faith for the right reasons? This is where it gets really tricky. But at least we know tools like exist and can work, and the accuracy is going to get higher and higher and higher. Well, now let's take the next step and ask what happens when an AI system starts connecting with other systems at scale. So kind of building off that whole concept, all the drama we saw with Moltbook and OpenClaw last week, let's talk about AI taxonomies. Because we need an operational framework for precision in AI discourse when they're all out there on the internet talking with each other at scale. All right, so most of the most interesting AI products right now aren't just powerful because of a single model being used. They're powerful because of the stack behind it. And when you think about that for a few minutes, you start realizing that AI isn't like a thing in itself. It's a whole bunch of different jobs. In this article, The author, Naren Jashamal, breaks it down into 6 buckets of functional categories. We have analytical AI, which can predict, classify, score, optimize; semantic AI, which can understand meaning, find relationships, grounds context; generative AI that creates new content, text, images, code, media; agentic AI, which plans, reasons, uses tools, executes multi-step workflows; perceptive AI, one of the more interesting ones, interprets sensory inputs, vision, speech, documents; and physical AI, applied intelligence to physical actuators, spaces, robots, all that stuff. Now, it's good to get your head around those buckets, but even after that, then you have to think about the way that they interact with other agents. Right? Is it an invisible AI? Does it operate entirely in the background where a user sees the outcome but not the AI itself? Is it an assistive AI surfacing recommendations or drafts for human decision or approval? Is it generative UI, an interface that's self-constructed just for one user for one intent? Or is it conversational, turn-based chat, or voice interaction? And then there's the functional layers. If it's analytical AI, then maybe it's scoring things. If it's semantic, maybe it's using grounding context, customer histories, intent, relationships. Could be generating personalized messaging, something creative or agentic, orchestrating multi-step optimization loops. Basically, some AI decides, some understands, some creates, some acts, some senses, and some moves. And the real AI advantage is not going to be in any single one of these categories. It's going to be in how you and other people decide to combine them for your own purposes. So if anyone says that they're using AI, you should ask a little bit of a deeper question. How did you combine these AIs? Did you build a system that decides? Does it remember? Does it create? Does it act? Does it do all of those things together in some kind of orchestra to solve a problem? Because as we enter the future of AI, the power isn't going to be in the model itself. It's going to be in the orchestration. So I think we should start having that conversation. And remember, if you see that video out on the internet, that is not the real atlas. That's an AI generated atlas. Robots can't do that yet. Not yet.